something clicked in my mind. I remembered being in a room with Mr. Trump, probably in early June of 2016, when something peculiar happened. Don Trump Jr. came into the room and walked behind his father's desk, which in and of itself was unusual. People didn't just walk behind Mr. Trump's desk to talk to him. And I recall Don Jr. leaning over to his father and speaking in a low voice, which I could clearly hear, and saying, "The meeting is all set." And I remember Mr. Trump saying, "Okay, good, let me know." What struck me as I looked back and thought about the exchange between Don Jr. and his father was, first, that Mr. Trump had frequently told me and others that his son Don Jr. had the worst judgment of anyone in the world, and also that Don Jr. would never set up any meeting of significance alone, and certainly not without checking with his father. I also knew that nothing went on in Trump world, especially the campaign, without Mr. Trump's knowledge and approval. So I concluded that Don Jr. was referring to that June 2016 Trump Tower meeting about dirt on Hillary with the Russian representatives when he walked behind his dad's desk that day, and that Mr. Trump knew that was the meeting Don Jr. was talking about when he said, "That's good, let me know."
On that fateful day, Don Jr. walked behind his father's desk and spoke those 5 simple words. "The meeting is all set," he said. His father, Donald J. Trump, nodded and responded as he always did to information about scheduled events. "Okay, good, let me know." But this was no ordinary scheduled event. It was something they had both been dreading for weeks. As Don Jr. walked away, he could sense a sadness in his father's voice, as though he had betrayed some part of himself. Don Jr. recognized that sadness all too well. It always showed up whenever his father dealt with unpleasant matters, and this meeting would be the most unpleasant of any that had ever taken place in the Trump dynasty. You see, Ivanka's new clothing line was failing. Even though Don Jr. wasn't the best judge of things, even he could tell that this season's style was total garbage. He knew it, his father knew it, and most terrifyingly of all, Melania had said so the previous evening, out loud. Melania never criticized anything about Ivanka out loud. She would never say anything to damage the father-daughter relationship between her husband and Ivanka. But dear God, the clothes were just hideous and were of absolutely dreadful quality. Melania felt she had to say something, not only to spare Ivanka from failure and bad press about the clothing line, but also to spare humanity from the inevitable eye rape of having to see runway models dressed in what could only be described as a sartorial natural disaster. Ivanka's entire fashion enterprise could collapse because of this. The Chinese had botched up the silk shipments. The French fashion advisors had all gone on strike. And the dyes coming out of India were of abysmal quality. A textile company in Russia had put in a bid to help correct the problems, But correcting the problem would take time, and Ivanka would need to give her personal approval in order to change suppliers, die makers, and fashion staff all at the same time. The problem was, however, that nobody had broken the news to Ivanka yet. She was still blissfully unaware of the troubles happening within her own company, and of the horrors she was about to unleash upon the world. Her doting employees, having tried unsuccessfully to solve the problems themselves, didn't want to disappoint Ivanka or see her cry, and so it was decided that a family meeting might be the best way to break the bad news to her. Little did they know, that meeting would spawn 2.5 years of suspicion, rumors, fake news, and witch hunts. If they had all known then what they know now, they never would have had that meeting. They would have just donated the entire godforsaken clothing line to charity, and used it as a tax write-off, and to garner a token of free publicity. But you know what they say about hindsight. It's Trump 2020.